Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Doggin. What's up, Melina? How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
You're not doing good. You were just crying and whining, so why don't you tell everybody what's your problem?
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm gonna vent. I'm gonna vent for a little bit, and then we'll get on to our guests. So we were supposed to go live last night. We didn't. And then we get up in the morning, and
Tell them
Joey's
why
and,
we didn't
and
go
Joe
live, and tell them how nasty you were to me.
because Joey doesn't understand time zones. That's why we didn't go live. So
Look,
that's
when
in
you tell me
a nutshell.
9 p.m.
Look,
or when you tell me 7 p.m.
Nobody follows Arizona time
Or-
on Earth. Nobody follows Arizona time on
We're
Earth.
the
So
only ones that
anyway.
do it.
Joey gets hot and heavy in the morning and ready to work, and I got all these ideas. And so I drop off my daughter at school. I'm taking my pre-workout. I'm heading to the gym, and I'm ready to go stretch. And then my phone rings, and it's Joey. And then I spend 20 minutes on the phone, completely lose all my momentum. It was a terrible workout this morning.
I tell you what,
So
I
I just
can't
don't have
win.
the same. I don't got the same energy.
I can't win for losing. You know, it's like when I wasn't calling you with ideas and working on the podcast, like, where are you, man? And
Now
I
it's
am.
now that's fair to say. You're right. I will take this any day. Next time I'll just take my Bluetooth because usually I'll leave these bad boys here just whenever I do a show. I usually don't take them whenever I leave the house, but
Yeah.
I'll
Hey,
I'll
look,
handle that shit.
I'm looking forward to this discussion today. We have a buddy of ours on who also is now a Patreon sponsor of the show, and it's Jack Murray from Mob Productions. And Mob, if you guys don't know, has been doing some high dollar entry tournaments now for really the last couple years, and they also do the Salado hit list, the Mob hit list through Salado. But their tournaments, I think, are the big thing that people are really getting behind and getting excited about because the paydays are extreme for pool players. And so we asked Jack to join us. So, Mike, you want to go ahead and let Jack Murray in so we can talk about some of the events they have coming up. What's up, Jack?
Hey guys.
Yo, welcome, buddy.
Good morning. How are you guys awake over there? I guess I'm in the Pacific time zone. Never mind.
Yeah.
we're
You're
good.
with Joey. Yeah, you're with Joey. Yeah.
Yeah. How things been, Jack? How's the pool scene in Las Vegas looking?
Vegas pool scene is always good. There's a lot of activity here, a lot of things going on. We're getting towards the cooler weather seasons, so a lot of the league tournaments, the World Championships, and National Championships have all passed out, but there's always a lot going on here in Vegas.
Yeah, well, you guys have an event that's coming up really in, 2 weeks or less? And
October 14th to 15th. I think it's right around 3 weeks, but we're
3 weeks.
close. We're rounding up.
It's coming up quick. It's called the Megalodon,
Mm-hmm.
and it's $6.99 and under Fargo capped. Is that right?
Yes, $6.99 and under Fargo cap with 500 plus robustness.
Okay.
Players had to be $6.99 or lower when we announce the tournament, as well as when they register. But it's $1,000 entry.
But how do you know if they were if they want to register now, but they've gone up? How do you know they were then by that date?
So I have the ability, because I'm also a BCA pool league operator that uses Fargo Rate's league management system, to see a player's history in that sense.
Okay.
So I can see what they were on the date of announcement and trends in that aspect. But another thing that's also important that isn't quite that exact note is we also require all players that play in our high entry events to make their data public on the Facebook or the Fargo Rate app, so that we and everybody else can see the entire data history of players. In that
Break
sense.
that down for me for someone who doesn't use who doesn't I'm not
Perfect.
too versed in all that.
So let me just I'm going to use my props. I've got my phone here with the Fargo Rate app.
Okay.
With it. If you tap the menu, go to settings, there's an option for sharing right here. That's just for the people who want to do it. I know that's not exactly what Mike was looking for, but let me go to Joey. Is yours set to share?
Yes, I think.
All right,
so you can see everybody that they've played, that account, that how it brings up their Fargo rate where it is.
Yes.
In a nutshell.
Exactly. And what it is here's Joey Ryan. It shows his entire data history, all the players, the dates, the events, the scores of each match.
Hey, I should have won that match against Stan Louis. Okay.
Well, yeah,
that's
you
why.
should have. I'm sure a ball skidded, right?
You
Yeah.
want to talk about a dog? My man was like 6'2", going to 7 on the bar table and couldn't put him away.
Dan Louis is a great player.
You did beat up on this guy down here at the BCA, at this Jack Murray guy.
Oh, okay.
I remember that set. It kind of hurt.
I got that going for me.
And but that's the great thing about that is it allows not only us to see everything, but everybody else that's playing in the tournament. You know, we put the player list on our website. Everybody can see the data on that aspect too. So, but that's one thing we do require for eligibility, that you have that public.
Do you think by having that the player list public that can kind of be a detriment to you guys, and maybe trying to fill with these high dollar and then higher Fargo rated cap tournaments?
Well, I don't know if putting a player list out hurts that, because when you're talking $1,000 entries, you're usually not getting people 100 points below the cap. In that, you're getting people within 50 points of the cap, and they're pretty confident and competitive with everybody in there. I mean, I would play anybody that's 30 to 50 points ahead of me in Fargo. Well, maybe not at the moment, but I just got beat up by Savannah, so my ego is really, really, really low.
What's your Fargo at, Jack?
It's too low for you. Actually, it's about right around where you are. It's about 575.
Oh, I'd flip the coin with you.
I know you would. You would in a heartbeat. I can see you salivating over there.
You can't even beat a 13-year-old, Jack.
I might head over to Las Vegas just to help out a little bit.
We can do something. We'll figure something.
Yeah.
Well, look, before we get into this particular event, and Mike's got it up on the screen, and we can leave it there so people can kind of see it. I kind of asked you to do a little bit of homework. I'm not sure if you were able to, but
yeah.
I know you've been doing these events for a couple of years now, and I was there for one of the events. I think you guys did it, or maybe it was before you and Jason kind of got together. I was commentating a match and or commentating the tournament, and Susan from Arizona won the tournament. And I want to say she walked out the door with like $26,000.
Yeah, that wasn't our tournament. That was Marcus Graham's tournament that he runs at Griff's, which is the Sam Lenshaw Memorial.
Got it.
Yep,
Okay, but similar concept,
that's coming
right?
up this week, either this weekend or next weekend. I forget.
Got it. Similar concept though. High dollar entry.
Yep.
Big payouts.
Payouts. That one was a single elimination on the big tables, and Marcus paid, I think, winner take all in those
single elimination.
That was single elimination. We don't do single eliminations anymore on these high entries. We used to have the gunslinger that way, but we don't anymore. But yeah, that concept where you're heavily vested into it. With our tournament, if you're in all side pots, it's $1,600 unless you want to qualify. But take the Mako last year where we had 80 players in at Griff's in December. We paid, the winner took home $50,000.
50 grand.
Yep, 50 grand. That wasn't counting the online player auction. That was just the tournament and side pots with it. But yeah, we started running these tournaments coming out of the pandemic. In 2020, Jason came to me wanting to do a bar table version of the Sam Lenshaw, actually. And that's what he said he had the perfect name for it. It was the Moby Dick, the great white whale of tournaments.
I like it.
And that is the flagship event that really brought Mob together, because at that point it was just kind of Jack and Jason doing a tournament, and then the brains of the operation, which would be my wife Rebecca.
I'd agree with that.
If you guys absolutely, if you guys are going to do this, make a business of it. And she came up with Mob. Mob stands for Murray Osborne Billiards.
Okay.
And it's great to play off the Vegas Mob theme with everything. Oh, she's got the brains. We all know that. So we came up with that tournament, and then we started doing a few other things. And in 2021, which was our first year, we paid out $195,000 with no added money to any events, not counting the online player auctions or our Mob Tour, which is a lower entry event. Then last year, that number went from 195 to 305,000.
Wow.
And this year, with the upcoming Mako, the Megalodon as it sits, so it would be much more if we get a larger field, and the Desperado, if it goes through, which we're hoping that will as well. That's another event we'll talk about. we should be well over 350,000 in total payouts. So in 3 years, we've paid out around 850,000.
No kidding. Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty impressive. Hey, Melina.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's fun to see, and I know there's a lot of chatter, good, bad, and all those things, and we'll get to talk about this later about Fargo rate. But without Fargo rate, none of this could happen, because we've had players travel from over 30 states in 3 provinces in Canada to come play in our events, and nobody would trust that a tournament director in a different state is going to have an honest rating system for them and $1,000 entry, and no tournament director is going to trust that a player is appropriately rated without a global rating system. So I always tip my hat to the guys at Fargo Rate, who are some of the hardest working guys in the pool.
And we have a question in the chat. I think it's a good question. James Brinson asks, do you guys allow savers?
You mean by people chopping? So really, there's no way we can stop it. The last thing I want to do is say no, and then they play a fake match, essentially. Right. They make it. So if somebody does want to chop something, there's not much we can do to stop it. We prefer to have it play out. Now, when it comes to our side pots, quite often they'll make a saver because we have a $100 and a $300 side pot that pay multiple places, but then there's a $200 side pot that's winner take all, and sometimes that's in the upwards of $8,000 just for the one side pot, maybe $10,000 in that ballpark. And so if they're playing the match for that, sometimes they'll put either chop it or do something else, but we will. Like I said, we want to keep everything open and transparent. That's one of the things that we've always strived for, is to be very transparent with our payouts, transparent with and clear with how we take entries and eligibility.
What have you found has been like the most successful, honey hole when it comes to like a range of Fargo, as far as like filling a field and then, none of the bullshit either?
Yeah, the 580 and under group and the 550 and under group, and it sounds like it's the same group, but it's kind of 2 player bases. Those tournaments fill up usually very fast. Surprised, actually, we still have some room in the Moby Dick for next year, but that's going to fill up soon. That's 564 and under that we announced not too long ago. We did the draw on it, but that under 600 level to the high 400s, they not only are excited about the events, but they are eager to enter. When we did the drawing for the last Gilligan, which was a 515 and under, we filled it in 3 days with a field of 64 players. So it really.
And by contrast, the 699 and under events, or anything in the 700 and under events, those you're having a harder time filling. So I'm really curious to get your thoughts on why that might be.
Well, there's one obvious factor. For every 680 player, there's probably 500, 550 and under players.
Is that
ballpark?
Is that
so
accurate?
It's a much smaller pool of fish. I'm pulling that number out of the top of my head and guessing, but I would bet if you go to Fargo Rate, it's probably not that far off.
Let me get Mike on the phone.
If you do
Let's settle this shit right here.
There we go. We can get Mike or Steve on the phone. Either one of them. They're pretty good. But it's pretty close. You've got a much smaller player base when you're going towards that number, so you don't have as many people up there for it. But also, a lot of the players in that range, they play more seriously. They're playing for the heavy money, and they also like to hold on to their money. They don't want to put down a $200 deposit 6 months out, where others will. The downfall with that is everybody keeps texting me, asking me how many people are on the list, and if everybody that asked me just signed up, we'd have a full field already.
Really?
They're a little hesitant in that sense. Also in that ballpark, there are more of those players sometimes have backers or I don't know what you call it, corporations together, maybe that are putting them in for an event like this.
Yeah.
So it just depends. There are some different reasons. The frustrating thing for me is that is also the group that complains whenever they see a 600 and under or a 550 and under big money tournament that they don't have one.
Yeah.
And then when we put it out there,
this is a common theme that I hear around the country. And, you asked me if I was coming to this event and you happen to schedule it on the one weekend I have to work all year.
It's always just nitty.
Yeah. Next year
please check my schedule before creating any of these tournaments. But I have a friend of mine who does streaming in Maryland, and recently he put out a post, I think it was shaming, I guess, the higher rated players that are not playing in the U.S. Open. And his point was, you complain about all these capped events, here on the East Coast, and here's an open event, the US Open, where you can go and play in it. And I kind of went back at him and I'm like, it's not exactly fair. It's for a 700 player to go and play against 800 players, invest all that time and money. It's not really comparable to them just wanting to play in a $40 local event or something like that. So I think there's this
Well, in play for that kind of
I
money,
think
I
there's this
agree.
perception, though, Jack, that players around my speed are real nitty when it comes to entering events like this, and
Joey Ryan, ladies and gentlemen.
they want to make sure that they have the best of it, before entering, or maybe they're a little more skeptical that somebody could slide in that shouldn't be in there. I mean, do you think that comes into play at all?
I think a little bit, but I think pool players of all level have that a little bit of that in them. But you also have to kind of take the $1,000 entry aside, because that's an exceptional aspect. When you're talking about the 40, 50, $100, $200 entries, that same 700 that doesn't want to have to compete against the 800s is asking the 600s and 500s to play them even. In that same ballpark. So they're, in the tournaments, when they're saying these people should play up and play even, it's the same thing where they want to earn their oats. But I do think that even when you have, like at a 600 and under tournament, you're going to have the people that are right at the 600s that want, like 602, that are upset they're not getting in, but the 520s may not want to get into that because of that aspect. It's a little bit of everything, but I do see more of it on the higher
I have a
skill
different
level.
theory. Can I lay it out there?
Okay.
I believe that players in the lower skill levels are more often accustomed to overrating their game. I think that there's just this natural tendency to think that you play better than you do. And I see complaints all the time like, Fargo can't be right because I know I play 580 speed and I'm 520. You don't hear many people that are a 680 saying I should be a 750. But I hear a lot of people that are 450, 500 saying they should be 580, 600. Or Fargo says I'm a 520, but I know I'm up around, low sixes. And so I really think that a lot of amateurs that, are in that range, that would qualify for some of your lower Fargo tournaments, have a tendency to overrate their game. And maybe it's true in some cases. Maybe they're in the right situation where they haven't, I guess, performed in events that were Fargo rated or submitted to Fargo, and they feel like, hey, I can make money in this event. That's just my theory.
You could definitely be onto something there, because I do know many more players in the lower skill levels. As Jeremy Jones said, weak players. We're not going to talk about the guy in Florida, but who may overestimate their games a bit on that. That probably does. It's the confidence where they are with it, and also, again, a lot of the players that are 699 and under come through where they've been through the grind. They've been through everything. They have a realistic aspect from matching up and gambling. In that aspect, I think that sense is a little bit different. So you might be onto
and
something
maybe, 730 and under, kind of, 650 to 730, you're getting more into semi-pro range. And some of those players, and this is a huge generalization, but some of them may not be the types of folks that hold down like the stable jobs, and they're kind of grinded out, making a living, matching up and playing pool events. And so maybe that's why they tend to be perceived as nittier. I don't know. Whereas you
No,
have somebody
absolutely.
who's a
They're ones that
500, they're a pool enthusiast, they love pool, and they also happen to be an accountant with a good job, and $1,000 is nothing to them.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, and that's why with one of the reasons with the Desperado tournament, because there's again a smaller base, and some of that aspect, we cap that field at 16 players. That's a $1,500 entry, by the way. So a 16-player field will pay the same as the 32-player field of the Gunslinger for the top place. But it's a way we did that specifically for those semi-pro players that are always having to go get beat up on by the pros in the open events, they really aren't an amateur level. They're above the amateur level. So we wanted to have an event for those guys that could get them a good payday in this sense too. And also for us and for Griff's Billiards, who's hosting this event, it puts on a great exhibition of talent because it'll be fun to watch those matches.
Absolutely. I mean, you could.
Can you some of the names that are in the Desperado?
Well, we don't have a lot right now. That's one reason I've got the post up there, but I absolutely can. Ruben Silva of Tucson. Victor Kakuza of Utah is there. Let me just kind of look through something really quick. Just going to our website because that's better than my memory is. Our website is mobbilliards.com. All right. So we have Ruben Silver, Victor Kakuza, Savannah Easton is playing
show
in it.
some hearts,
and then,
wow. That's strong right there.
She's rated as like a 580, and she's playing in the 7.
No, she's a 594 and probably higher after she trounced a 575 recently.
Who's the 575?
But we only have 4 players on that list right now. Yeah, that guy
Rick Glasscock wants me to put him in. I want you to put me in, Rick. Come on. I'll take a shot.
There you go.
No, but seriously, what I would recommend for those of you that are checking out this video is go into the Fargo app and use the filtering and check out your state and look at players who might be 700 to 730 and see. I mean, you might be in a situation where you can help put somebody in this event and then work out some kind of deal where you collect quite a bit of money if they do well. So everybody knows that really good 715 player, 720 player in their area. If you're so inclined, put them in this event and then split the winnings with them. That's what I'd do.
So on our website, I have a breakout of payouts for the full field of 16 players. And first place, not counting side pots because we don't know how many would get in, would be 11,200 for the first place in a 16-player field. So add another probably 10 to 10,000 due to side pots on it because that's a $200, $300, and $400 side pots. It will pay very well.
Definitely. And
I wonder why a guy like Nick ain't playing this event. Because Nick's always talking about there's nothing to play.
Nick's just too high. I think he's.
Oh, is he?
He was 730 on the dot when we announced it, or no? I think when I actually sent it, because I sent out messages to a lot of people that were 730 and under, and he was 730 on the dot when we announced when I messaged him, but when we announced it, he was over.
Hey, Jack, where can people find out more information? We've got people in the chat asking where they can see these flyers.
Absolutely. Our website is mobbilliards.com. That's mobbilliards.com. And we have all of our active tournaments that are set up on that. You can just go to the tournaments page. You can also follow us on Facebook. Rebecca tells me I'm on Facebook too much. She uses a much more detailed word. I definitely
what's
keep
that
people
word?
updated.
What's that word, Jack?
Yeah, I'm a Facebook whore, is what she says. I'm a Facebook whore.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pretty accurate.
Wow. So, Melina, if you could go back to that shot with the Megalodon, which is coming up, because that one's coming up in like 3 weeks, and it seems like you have room for 64 players in this event, but
Yes. We have 17
you have 17. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here. And if you think about it, maybe even a better return on investment than the Desperado, because if they end up getting 50, 60 players, this thing's going to pay huge, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yes, it will.
So do the same thing I said. Go into the Fargo app, do 675 to 699 or something like that, and figure out who you want to send to this tournament. Should be a really good opportunity there.
When I see the $200 non-refundable deposit, I'd imagine it gets refunded if it doesn't fill then, or you guys don't have the event. Is that right?
So correct. We've only not had an event one time, and that was the original Megalodon when we tried it last year. Last year, when we did it as a 720 and under, and we only had 6 people enter, and everybody got their deposits back. If you become ineligible, it's refundable as well if a player went over the 10-point cushion. The only reason it's non-refundable is if you withdraw. In that sense, because we basically don't want people putting their name on the list for posterity's sake and then backing out last minute, which unfortunately does happen.
Not with pool players, Jack. Say it ain't so.
Hey, our buddy in the chat, Rick Glasscock, I thought we had action. He's like, I'll enter you, Joey. but I can't do the 699 and under because I'm out of town. He followed up with in the 699 and under, not the 730. He doesn't have that much faith in me, but I appreciate that, Rick. But I'm actually out of town for the Megalodon. I won't be able to make it. But
You just saved yourself some money, Rick. Good
yeah,
job. Yeah.
There's some other horses out there for you,
Jack,
Rick.
tell us
So
how the whole naming conventions for these tournaments came up, and take us through all the different names that you guys have for the different events throughout the year.
Okay, well, the names come from Rebecca, because if it was up to me, there would be like a 699 and under. That's about it. I'm not the most creative person, but Jason came up with a Moby Dick for the original one. Then we have the Puddle Jumper, which is the low skill level $300 entry. That's the people just learning to fly and getting their wings. And that's this last year was a 456 and under. Then we have the Gilligan. That's this year was a 515 and under. The year before was a 540 and under. Then the Moby Dick, which this year is, or in 2024 will be a 564 and under. The Mako, which is the Slim Speedy Sharks, is the 649 and under this year. Then of course the Megalodons, the big sharks, and that's the 699 and under. And then Rebecca came up with the Desperado. And then we also have the Gunslinger. And the Gunslinger is going to become more of a gunslinger because the next year it's going to be 9-ball on the 9-foot tables instead of 10-ball.
Nice. And these
With no 9 on
got
the
it.
break.
The Megalodon and Desperado are on 9-footers.
No, Megalodon's on 7-foot. The Megalodon's on 7-foot. The Desperado's on 9.
I can't believe you scheduled it that weekend, Jack. That's the perfect tournament for me.
Shucks. Joey's got so much gamble too. He for sure would have gotten in it. Gosh. Can't believe that happened.
Get your ass in the Puddle Jumper, Molina.
Wait, so what happened?
Oh, yeah, he's not in that one.
What's the Puddle Jumper? Which one's that one?
It's like
that was a 456 and under. Yeah, you're not in that one. Just
according to Joey. I'll tell you what, Joey. I'll play you as a 450 if you want to do something like that, big boy. All right. Yeah. What was I going to ask you, Jack? So, let's say that there's someone who wants to who's looking for to get staked or whatever. Do y'all have any way of facilitating that?
You mean finding them a stake horse,
corporation, or whatever? Yeah, because maybe
it's actually an interesting idea. Like
it's something that we haven't ever really even talked about and hasn't come up. I could check to see. I mean, that's something we could look into. But the hard part is when you're talking about this kind of money and a player that the staker might not know is tough. And I do my best to stay out of other people's action. Because it's not my place necessarily to make a game or recommend somebody with it. So I don't know if that's something
I get really the vouching for the character. That's for sure.
And definitely, if you're running the event and you helped get 3 people in the event or you're part of the corporation, I could see a lot of problems.
No. I'm not saying that he'd be part of that team to put the player in.
Right.
I'm just saying like if let's say you knew of a player who was like, man, I really want to go, but I can only swing 500 out of the 1,500. Well, let's see if we can get, a couple guys together who just like to gamble and maybe have a little bit of faith in the name and, want to, see if it sticks.
Yeah. And I've done that locally, I guess, with a couple players for some tournaments where they were short on something. And I said, well, these people, go talk to them. But it was where they knew each other. Yeah. In that sense, it's hard to do it when it's a new face.
I got an idea. We're going to talk, Joe, with me and you after we get out of here.
Okay. So, Jack, do you have an idea of like your geographic reach that you've had with these events? Because I know
he said like 30 states.
Was it 30 states? Did you say that?
Yeah, we've had 30 states, and so we've had players from Alaska, Hawaii, basically almost every state west of the Mississippi. In Florida, I'm not sure Georgia. I don't think Georgia. South Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, then Saskatchewan.
I was going to say any other countries, just Canada. Okay,
just Canada. No one, not to my knowledge, that anybody's come from anywhere else. But yeah, there's quite a few.
I like that. So one thing that was brought up in the chat, and I think it's kind of an interesting idea, is the notion of maybe a Scotch doubles tournament. because I know that there's a lot of people that on their own would say, I don't know if I'm putting up $1,000, but if they're partnered up with someone like
Not just that,
Melina
but now I
Mike
got
would,
something to split costs with too.
yeah, Melina Mike would for sure
That's
throw
true.
$1,000 if he knew I was his partner. So if you did something like a 1,200 and under or something like that, have you given that any consideration?
Well, we actually have. I can't tip my hand completely yet, but we have a big event coming up next year that will be a huge Scotch event, but not the high entry aspect, but it's going to be a big Scotch. The high entry Scotch is something we've talked about, but really haven't acted on, because unfortunately there's only so many weekends in the year. And this year with Mob, I think we're running 35 tournaments, and I also work for the Rum Runner here in town and run 16 for them in a year.
Yeah.
So, it
I
gets a
think
little
that would
busy.
be cool though. High dollar entry.
I think you're onto
Scotch double.
something, but keep your ears peeled, because we have something really exciting coming with Scotch doubles in Vegas next year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Jack, I got to ask you about any controversies or things like that. I know when people come home, first, I made a post last night on something Dominic Dunn had in the dungeon. But, what typically happens, somebody goes to a tournament and then they come back and they're like, oh man, somebody got in that tournament and they should have never been there. And they ran out 4 racks in a row on me. And, I find that typically that's an exaggeration that, when you really, like, if you watch the match, well, maybe they broke the 9 in once, or maybe they played a combo, or, maybe they just happened to play well. And I got to thinking, like, don't you have to play better than your Fargo to win a tournament usually? If me and a bunch of
Yes.
696s got in a tournament together, the one who wins the tournament is probably going to play above their Fargo. And the Fargo is not saying how Jack Murray's going to play tomorrow. It's saying how Jack Murray played over the last, however many matches that he's played. And so this idea to me is kind of an interesting one, but people tend to, rather than look at the 3 ball they missed when the score was 2-2, right? Things that they can affect and change, and mistakes they made, they tend to go back to the rating and people gaming the system and all of that. What are your thoughts? Do you get complaints about that? How do you handle it? That kind of thing.
So there's a few points in there. The number one thing is pool players have the worst memories in the world when it comes to when we lose matches, and I'm as guilty as anybody. But
Not pro
I had a player
players.
this last weekend in our 575 and under who told me the guy broke and ran the whole 5 rack set on him, and I watched the guy shoot once each game. So the term put a 5-pack on him maybe means they won 5 games in a row, but that's it. And they use some exaggeration on it, but also you hit the nail on the head, because Fargo rate is not the best of your ability. Fargo rate is kind of your median where you're performing at, and you've got a bell curve that's going to be from I'm a 575 and I can play at a 475 level, or I can play at a 675 level, in that ballpark in a given set. And if you only see one person play, if you saw me play in my best set, you're going to say, well, this guy's obviously underrated and sandbagged, because he's a 575 and he just played flawless. Actually, I don't think anybody's ever said that about me, but that's a natural tendency. And I'll go back to the days in Arizona with a ratings committee that was by opinion. And the problem is, one tournament director sees a player play one day and another tournament director sees him play a different day. And that person's playing 2 different speeds at that time. And that's why one reason I really like Fargo is it takes everything into account. Now, also there are the possibilities that some people do try to work the system still, but those accounts are far few and in between of what people actually complain about with that. So, there is as long as we have rating systems, we're going to have, and handicap systems, we're going to have players trying to work it. The PGA or the USGA handicap system in golf has been fighting this for years with it. When the guy 9 putts the last green to make a different flight with his handicap or something of that nature. So there's things that we put in play to try to prevent it. We're not perfect with everything, but we try to make it the best competitive aspect for it. And I know there's a lot of tournament directors out there that do an awful lot to work on it. And if any tournament directors ever have any questions about what we do, I'm happy to talk with them on it. I don't like putting a lot of what we do out in public, because for the people that may have malicious intent, I'd rather not give them a roadmap.
And so when people have their scores public, which is required to enter one of your events, it's safe to assume that when they do enter the event, you take a look at their scores, right? And if you see, especially in the last 6 months, a whole bunch of goose eggs for them, that's a red flag and something that you have to consider. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you can see where they are. And if you see a 580 losing badly to some 400s in even matches, there's all sorts of red flags you can see with it. But it gives you the data history on it. I don't see a lot of it. I mean, there's only been a few players, a handful, that I've had issues with where we've said no or got games taken out of Fargo and possibly even had them banned from Fargo if Fargo does that. I'm not sure I don't want to speak for them by any means. But there are the potential of people.
Let me handle them. I'm real good at blocking people, Jack. We'll get them out of here. Yeah.
There you go. So no, we do look at all of the data. We look through everything, and we also try to see how players, and we continue to watch for the 10-point cushions and those things. There's all sorts of different things that we look for in there. And one thing, I know a lot of people talk about Salado and there's a myth that if you play a match in Salado, it automatically goes in and no one ever looks at it. First off, that's not true. Salado has background checks and things that they do on their end. But also the great thing about a Salado match that you play is that has to be public in your rating. You cannot hide that. So if you play a Salado match and it goes into Fargo, not only and that's you'll see it with when we had your rating right here, your history. If you see right next to Colby and Jack Murray there, you see that little Salado logo that shows up in your data, so everybody can see what you do. And peer review is the number one way to make the game better. You see something shady, call it out. Whether you're a player, a tournament director, a league operator, whoever you are, just do your best.
Do you call them out, though?
We don't. When I say call them out, don't let them play. So I don't necessarily get into the public shaming, because we are a business and we don't want to get into a libel situation or anything of that aspect. But we won't let them play, and we'll tell them why. And we have a list of players we won't let play.
But why not? Why not just something like that? We're not letting so and so person play in our event.
If somebody asks, we do put that.
I think that there's a lot of players that complain about people trying to game the system, and then they get mad that folks like Jack or Salado or Fargo are not publicly shaming these people. I think it's up to us as the pool community to narc them out, and kind of like a bad action list.
Joey, who have you sold out, Joey? Who have you called out? Joey ain't got a call out bone in his body.
I mean, I don't get into all the details, but I'm just saying, like, if you're going to complain about it and you're going to say, oh, this person, whatever, hey, let people know about it.
It's true, because
I see it all the time. I know 3 people in this town that have been cheating Fargo for 6 months. What'd you do about it? Are you a tournament director?
Yeah.
Have you talked to the tournament directors? Have you called them out? Narc them out. Because, we need integrity in this game. So.
And I do have to say that I do have quite a few trusted players that will message me or tell me that, hey, look out for this player and these things. And I understand some people don't want to take a public stance on it because they don't want to get into the drama of it and that aspect. But what you just said of reaching out to the tournament directors, reaching out to the league operators, reaching out to Fargo Rate and those kind of things are great. It helps everybody out there. I have all sorts of people that I trust that message me on things, and I get a lot of messages, but you filter through those.
Well, Melina, throw that flyer up one more time. Let's try to get some people in this event, guys. It's coming up October 14th and 15th in Las Vegas. That one's at Griff's, Jack? At Griff's.
At Griff's,
Great
yes.
Pool room. It's the Megalodon, $699 and under. You needed to be a $699 on the day they announced it, and
June 14th.
and on the 14th. So But guys, reach
Wait,
out.
wait, you got to be one when it announces and on the 14th?
No, and when you
And when
register.
Got it.
Yep. So at the time of registration, as well as when we announced,
How
and
do I
then
know when
after
you
you
announce?
register, you have a 10-point cushion because it's on the flyer. It says as of June 14th.
Okay, so you have to not only on the 14th of June, but then also. Okay.
Yep. And if you're curious, if you're eligible, just send me a message, text me, whatever. My contact info is usually all over our website. It's also on the flyer right there. I'm happy to answer questions. If you'd like to play and you're not sure where you were back in June, just let me know and I'll find out for you.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm looking right now for players in Arizona, California, Nevada, Utah. I mean, if you're 680 and above and you're not playing in this event, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, and Chris Lulick's already on that list. He's already signed up.
Hey, Chris Lulick, I told Rick Glasscock to take him in the Calcutta for the last big event, and he's like, "Hey, what do you think of Chris Lulick?" I was like, "Take him," and Rick didn't do it, and Lulick finishes second. I don't know if you remember that. Was that one of your events, Jack?
That was the gunslinger. He finished second to Rishu Singh from Canada. No, it wasn't Rishu Singh. It was guy from California. Forget his name. Sorry.
Cool. Well, Jack.
That's why we have Rebecca. She remembers
Jack,
everything.
We love what you're doing. We think it's awesome that everyday amateur pool players can walk home with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and it's definitely given us a lot to talk about, a lot of interest in the game. And so I wish you the best of luck with this, man. Anything you want to kind of close it out with?
No, I appreciate what you guys do as well. You guys are bringing a lot of light to the sport, both the pro side as well as doing some things with us and the amateur side. But you guys are doing a great job covering it. I have to give a huge shout out to Rebecca, my wife. Like I said, she's the heart and soul behind it, as well as Jason, who puts in a lot of work behind the scenes. People see me and talk to me in that aspect, but without Rebecca, there's no mob. Without Jason, there's no mob. So those guys are the heart and soul of the group.
We appreciate your support. We appreciate you for coming on. We hope that event will follow through. We'd like to see some big players get into it, and then you guys will have streams as well throughout it, right?
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say because you guys just picked up a camera, so
yes, we just bought a very good camera from some guy in Arizona.
Hopefully, you paid goods and services.
And yes, yeah.
It's shipped already. They got the tracking number. It's good, but it's an awesome camera. So tell us about the streaming for the events.
So we stream all of our events. Are some of them that I'm there just running by myself. If there's some other things going on, I can't always do commentary, but we try to have commentary for all of our significant events. And we also appreciate all the sponsors that have helped us as well. Give a quick shout out, if you don't mind, to Jam Up Apparel, Table 34 here in Vegas, Venom Incorporated Pest Solutions, Caveman Custom Cues, that's Ruben Silva in Tucson, and IV Fusion Therapy here in Las Vegas. But anybody that's interested in possibly joining us as a sponsor to promote your business, 100% of their contributions goes towards added money. We do not take anything out of that for admin. That goes to the players. So if there's anybody that would like to promote their products or their company with us and help the pool community, we're welcome and we're open to.
I tell you what, I would really consider that, guys, if you have a business, because if you think about it, the finals, people might be playing for $25,000 or $50,000. People are going to tune in for that. It's a lot of interest. There's going to be a lot of people there, so consider sponsoring. Oh, we got a guest.
She's training for the Gilligan or the Harry Potter or whatever you call it. Puddle jumper. There you go.
The puddle jumper right now. Yeah, we'll come up with a Harry Potter tournament later.
Mike doesn't want to tell you. She gives Mike the 8.
Yeah, that's true.
Doesn't surprise me. She's adorable.
Well, Jack, it was great talking to you. Thanks again for your support and best of luck with your events. Guys, sign up for the Megalodon and the Desperado. Megalodon $6.99 and under. Desperado coming up in December, $7.30 and under. Take care, Jack. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend and have a good trip to the U.S. Open.
There we
I'm
go.
on.
There we go. I had to beat him to it. Let's bring up that flyer one more time.
There you
Pretty
go.
sweet deal, Joe. You know, got a chance for a nice little payday.
It kind of pisses me off that we don't get. I mean, Jack's right, and I'm guilty, right? There's an event that comes up for a 700 and under, and everybody starts texting me like, "Hey, you're whining about not having events to play in. Why don't you play in this one?" But
Yeah.
with my schedule, it's tough sometimes. But it's true. There's a lot of people in that 680 to 700 range that should be playing in that event. So show up. It would be and imagine Mike watching the stream to that event. You might get a glimpse into the next really good player.
I've
That
watched. I've watched.
yeah,
I'll tune in like on like let's say it's a weekend. I'll tune in on like a Saturday night on, and then on Sunday, then I'll check in here or there and start watching. Who's going to what, and or I'm sorry, what the score is, things like that. And if it's close or somebody that I know personally, I'll for sure sit in there and sweat it. So but it's great. It gives it gives players a nice little payday opportunity, you know. So I posted that thing from Salado the other day. Something that commented on one of my posts, and listen, I like the idea of calling these guys out. I know there's some legal things to kind of keep in mind depending on what your business is, but it's the pool community's job to hold people accountable,
yeah,
and so if someone's there, and it's obvious, right, and you know what they're doing, call them out. Give me a minute,
yeah,
babe. All right.
yeah. And so, just to go over again what happened last night, guys, it was my bad. I misunderstood Mike's time issue. We were going to do the U.S. Open preview. We're going to have to find time to do that. Maybe we'll do it Friday night, Mike. I don't know. You'll probably be busy
Mm,
packing or something.
yeah, buddy. No, I leave on Sunday. I thought it was Saturday, but I'm leaving Sunday, so Friday might work.
All right, we'll
Yeah,
talk about
because
it.
tonight I got Eddie Cohen on.
Yeah,
In a minute, babe.
or maybe tomorrow
Um,
morning. We'll see.
yeah, tomorrow will be good too.
Yeah.
All right, there's also a Predator event that's going on right now as well. I don't know if you got a few minutes to kind of go over that, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for. There's a number of good matches today, but definitely, I think it's the 8 o'clock round or 8:30 round where it's the winners qualification round. There's some serious matches in there. I don't know if you saw. You gonna
Yeah, let me
show it,
see.
Mike?
Let me see if I can bring it up here. Sorry, I got my daughter digging in my pocket like she's the WPA and I'm a pull tournament. Uh, give me a second here. Okay, wait, I'll give it to you in a minute. All right, you guys. So this is the 8 o'clock round. This is the winner's side of the Predator Pro Beard Series. A couple Polish players playing up top in Victor and Bertunski.
I'm really interested in this match at the bottom, Joey Tate and Federer Gorst. I think that's going to be kind of interesting to see how Joey does against Federer in that environment. I'm hoping that one will be streamed. I haven't seen the schedule yet.
No, it
But
won't be, but Federer will have it on his YouTube channel. I just seen it in his story.
oh, cool.
So yeah,
Tyler Steyer, Aloysius Yap. That's going to be a great matchup.
that's actually
Uh,
the TV table match for the evening.
oh, is it?
Is that Yap versus Steyer? So Yap's a former winner. I think he's the reigning champion of this event, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then we all know how well that Tyler's playing. So that should be a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that one out. And then even in some of the more preliminary, I guess it would be the losers round 2, they're calling it. And even right now, going on in losers round 1, there's matchups going on. So you can check that out at World Billiard TV. I think it's also on Samsung TV on channel, what is it, Mike? 1092 or something. Did that number?
No idea.
Oh, anyway, but check it out, guys. A lot of great matches going on. Uh, this evening round tonight is going to be really stellar. So I'm excited for it.
Yep. All right, buddy.
Hey, good talking to you. We will, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you haven't checked it out, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/doggin. We're going to be putting up a question today and exclusive content you can get in on for not a whole lot of money. And we appreciate the support.
All right, guys. We'll see y'all later.